everyone. Welcome, welcome. We are getting started a little early just to make sure the live streaming works, to make sure everything is set. So we are going to get started shortly. Thank you so much for being here today. Pressing the correct button that says live video is starting. Sometimes, Lynn, I have forgotten that. Awesome. We're now live. All right. Good morning, everyone. You might see us popping into your Facebook feeds. We are going to get started momentarily on our family talk around Fraternity and Sorority Affairs at UMKC. We'll get started in just about 2 minutes. So welcome. If you're seeing us, please join. We are happy to have you. Good morning, folks. For folks who are joining us on Facebook, I see a few eyes here, which is super exciting. We're going to be starting our live stream shortly. And for folks who are joining us via the Zoom webinar, we'll be get started in a little less than 2 minutes. Thank you so much for joining us today. Hello to folks that are joining us. Got a few folks watching us live on the Facebook live stream, as well as a few attendees on the Zoom webinar. We're going to go ahead and get started right now. It's 1 o'clock Central Time. Lynn, you feeling it? Awesome. Well, for folks who do not know my name or do not know my face, my name is Kim Kushner. I serve as our Assistant Director of New Student and Family Programs in the UMKC Office of Student Involvement. I am putting on my family programs hat today, and I'm so honored to have the last in a series of our Family Talk Summer Series, the last webinar today with Lynne O'Dell, our coordinator for Fraternity and Sorority Affairs. It is a pleasure to work with Lynne. She is so incredibly passionate about our fraternity and sorority community on campus, her own sorority, her own life, and what her sorority has done for it personally, professionally, etc. I know I learn a ton from her every time that I work with her, and it's really fun to do these webinars. So we encourage folks, please, 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 you can ask any questions in the Q&A. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat if you are on the Zoom webinar. If you are watching us on the live Facebook stream, I put a little comments there saying, you know, you can use this area too for any questions. And then Lynn, feel free to take it away.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Kim, for the lovely introduction. I'm going to start just by briefly introducing myself. As Kim said, my name is Lynne O'Dell. I use she, her pronouns, and I serve as UMKC's coordinator for Fraternity and Sorority Affairs. I've been at UMKC since the fall of 2018. I first started as the graduate assistant, working with the community, and then transitioned into the coordinator role during the spring of 2020. And this will actually be my 5th recruitment season with this community. So I am just so excited. I love this community, and seeing it grow every single year makes me just so happy. And getting to see the positive experience that our community has on our students has been just wonderful. I do want to mention before we kind of move into talking about the various recruitment and intake processes that we won't be doing a deep dive into the community. And so we I think both Kim and I would encourage you to maybe pause this webinar, go back and watch our first family talk where we really dive into the values of the community, what organizations we have, and kind of what we do as a fraternity and sorority community. So that family talk is available, I think, in the Parent Family Facebook group and on Facebook. But we're going to kind of transition to talking about recruitment, talking about intake, and what that kind of looks like at UMKC. And so to start off, each council does bring in new members or NEOs through a different process called membership recruitment or membership intake. And so this webinar, as I mentioned, we're going to review what those processes look like, how they differ from one another, and then how can your student go about pursuing membership within their respective council that they're interested in. And so we are going to start off by talking about Panhellenic Recruitment. I know we have had lots of moms reach out and ask questions, which is amazing, and have some people here, I'm sure, wondering about Panhellenic Recruitment. And so I'm going to go over some logistical information and then kind of talk about what that process entails. And so Panhellenic Recruitment is for our 4 collegiate Panhellenic chapters. That is Alpha Delta Pi, Alpha Sigma Alpha, Chi Omega, and Delta Zeta. Informal recruitment will occur August 26th through the 28th, which is the Friday and Sunday, that first weekend of classes. We start about Friday afternoon, and then we will end the preference rounds Sunday afternoon, and then bid day will occur on Sunday evening, which is when they kind of find out which chapter they'll be joining. Registration is $35, and we have reduced this fee significantly. As the council, they do not make any money off of the registration fee. It solely covers your student's t-shirt and their meals for Friday and Saturday. Your student, if they do register, will be required to attend a PNM orientation or potential new member orientation, and that will either be August 23rd or 24th at 6 p.m. And they're able to choose which orientation they would like to attend. If your student is not able to attend one of those orientations, then they can reach out to their Rho Gamma, and I'll explain a little bit about who those individuals are, but they can reach out to their Rho Gamma and kind of find a different solution if they're not able to attend that. I know we get a lot of questions about letters of recommendation and legacies, so I do want to talk about that briefly. Letters of recommendation are not required to go through recruitment. I know that can be something that other schools like the University of Alabama or maybe Arkansas require to go through recruitment, but we do not require letters of recommendation. If your student or you want to have a letter of recommendation be sent to the chapters, that is totally fine. You can have letters of recommendation sent directly to the chapters, and those addresses can be found in the recruitment guide, which is located on UMKC Panhellenic's website, which is umkcpanhellenic.com. And maybe Kim can put that in the chat, but it's just umkcpanhellenic.com.
Yep, I'll totally take care of that.
Perfect, thank you. And then legacies, a legacy is essentially, it varies per organization, but it's typically a daughter or a granddaughter of an individual already in a sorority. So for example, I'm a member of Alpha Phi, which I forgot to mention that. I'm wearing all of my letters today. But if I were to have a daughter, she would be a legacy of Alpha Phi. And there are different policies regarding legacies, and that's kind of been something that many national organizations have done some refiguring with legacy policies. And so just know that those policies are determined by the national organizations, and that those chapters must follow those policies for recruitment. We like to say you absolutely do not have to be a legacy to go through recruitment, but I also like to mention just being a legacy does not necessarily guarantee you membership into that organization. And I also wanted to mention before I move on that while recruitment is Friday through Sunday, we do try to work around any conflicts. So I know many students have the Honors College breakfast or the Honors College activity that takes place Saturday morning. We highly encourage and really ask the students to go to that Honors College activity, and we will work around the recruitment schedule so that they can attend that. So if your student has some conflicts, feel free to, one, include those in the registration, and then be sure to mention that to the Rho Gamma or to myself or a CPC executive board member at their PNM orientation. And so going into the logistics of what Panhellenic recruitment looks like, we do a values-based recruitment at UMKC, which essentially means that chapters are choosing individuals based on their values and what most aligns with their organization. And we encourage the potential new members or your student to think about their personal values and choose a chapter that most aligns with their values. We really stress the importance of values and not choosing a chapter based on who has the cutest outfits, who has the best hair, who, you know, has the best formals or events, but really what values, what organization's values most align with yours. And so what this kind of looks like throughout the entire weekend is day one, which would be Friday, is Sisterhood Round. And the potential new members are learning all about the sisterhood and the kind of just a brief overview of who each chapter is. Each potential new member will attend all 4 chapters. So they will visit Alpha Delta Pi, Alpha Sigma Alpha, Chi Omega, and Delta Zeta that day. At the end of that evening, they will get to cluster and kind of make some selections or make their preferences known to us about which organizations they would like to maybe see the next day. We call that love and like, so they'll be able to put 3 chapters as their love and 1 as their like. And also the chapters are doing this on their end too, so they are preferencing individuals that most align with their values, and then we kind of come together with both of those preferences, and that kind of formulates the decisions about what chapters your student would attend the next day or days. And so day 2 is Philanthropy Round. Potential new members may only attend up to 3 chapters, but I always like to say may, because your student may end up only going to 2 chapters or 1 chapter. It all really depends, but at the most they can attend 3 chapters. And this day they're learning all about our chapter's philanthropies, which vary, and our community is very passionate about our philanthropy or their philanthropies. The CPC community specifically, I believe, raised over $15,000, and I actually want to say it's more than that. I think it's more in the 20s range for their philanthropies. We have the Make-A-Wish Foundation, which is Chi Omega's philanthropy, the Ronald McDonald House, which is Alpha Delta Pi's philanthropy. Alpha Sigma Alpha supports the Alpha Sigma Alpha Foundation, the Special Olympics, and Girls on the Run. And then Delta Zeta supports the Starkey Herring Foundation, and they also have a local philanthropy, Sunflower House. And so they'll get to learn all about those philanthropies. They'll talk about community service, and really kind of get to see which philanthropy maybe they are most passionate about or they would be most interested in participating. And then day 3, as I mentioned, let me go backwards. As I mentioned, after day 1, they'll kind of do that little preferencing. They'll do that again after day 2. And then day 3 is preference round. And potential new members can attend up to 2 chapters. So they can attend no more than 2 chapters. And again, they may also only be attending 1. It really just depends on kind of how the system works out and how those preferences play out. But preference round is a really special ceremony. It's where the chapters share some of their ritual and share a lot about what their chapter means to them, how they've grown as individuals. And it's kind of a really special ceremony that they only share with individuals that they're really considering to be members. And so after that preference round, they'll be again doing some preferencing and really thinking about which chapter do I see myself most aligning with, both in my values and kind of who I see myself aligning with as individuals as well. And so they'll get a little bit of a break, they'll do all of that, and then they'll go home for a little bit or go back to their dorm. And then Sunday evening will be bid day. So they'll show up to Pearson Auditorium, they'll have a bid card waiting for them, hopefully, and then they will get to open that bid card and then immediately after run to their chapter. And I say run because they will physically most of the time be running to their chapters. It's a really exciting time. They'll go and get to have a little celebration with all of their new sisters, which is very fun. It's one of my favorite days of the year, is just getting to see everybody and so much excitement and just so much joy for the sorority experience. So, and kind of as I mentioned throughout my entire spiel about this, it is a mutual selection process. So the potential new members are preferencing, you know, what chapters they want to attend, but also the chapters are preferencing what individuals they want to see most in their chapter. And that is all based on values. And also, again, feel free to put any questions in the chat, and then Kim can alert me if there's any questions.
Yes, you're doing great. And we've got folks still watching on the live stream. Shout out to that, as well as our
Perfect.
attendees here. So this is phenomenal. I know I told Lynn, I'm like, I learned things through learning through this, because it can be hard when you're maybe your student is a first generation college student, or you or your family members may not identify as being part of a Greek organization. So I'm so appreciative of Lynn sharing these resources with our parents and families today.
Yeah, and I was a first generation college student. I had no idea what I was doing when I was going through the sorority recruitment process. So I think that this definitely would have been helpful, and I hope that this information is helpful to all of you who are watching. But to wrap up Panelinic Recruitment, I do want to mention some resources that if you want to kind of dive into this more, again, umkcpanelinic.com, and there's a specific section under the website about formal recruitment, and the recruitment guide is it's a fantastic resource that you can use. It has some letters from some of our CPC executive board officers. It shows you who our Rho Gammas are. It talks about, outfits. I know that that's a big concern most of the time. It talks about the days, and really just has some FAQ questions in there as well that I kind of, for the most part, mentioned in this, but I really encourage you to check out that recruitment guide and also send that to your student if they're asking questions as well. And that registration link, as I mentioned, the potential new members or your student does need to register. That is required. And that registration can be found on the website, or it can be found in UMKC Panellinic's Instagram bio, or any of the chapter's bios, I'm sure. And we will keep registration open until the Thursday before recruitment. So I believe that's August 25th. And so they can register all the way up until August 25th at 11:59 p.m. And as I, again, mentioned before, a great resource for your student is their Rho Gamma, which is essentially a recruitment counselor who gives up their letters to help your student find theirs. They disaffiliate from their organization to serve as an unbiased source of information. And they're going to be going through training next week and really being able to support your student through this process. And so I always encourage potential new members to lean on that Rho Gamma, because again, they signed up to be an unbiased source, and to just be a helping hand throughout this process, because it can be a little stressful, it can be overwhelming, but it's also very exciting. And so the Rho Gammas are there to support. And so we're going to move on to Sigma Lambda Gamma National Sorority Incorporated. Sigma Lambda Gamma is our only multicultural sorority on campus. They are not in the Collegiate Panhellenic Council. We are currently working to identify potentially more multicultural student organizations, or more multicultural fraternities and sororities, I should say, to create what would be called a multicultural Greek council. But currently, Sigma Lambda Gamma is an independent organization, not affiliated with a council. But they welcome women identifying individuals with a 2.6 GPA and have completed 12 credit hours. So that typically means that they need to have completed at least their first semester of their freshman year before they're able to join. And transfer students can also join, and they must have a 2.75 GPA to be able to join. And Sigma Lambda Gamma typically hosts a recruitment week, either in the fall or spring semester. It kind of just varies on what their plans are and what they're thinking that year. And individuals who are interested in joining Sigma Lambda Gamma are encouraged to attend at least 3 recruitment events. And then the chapter will host an informational session at the end of that recruitment week that interested students must attend in order to be considered for membership. This informational covers things such as finances and how much it costs to be in the sorority. It talks about the process for joining. Typically, there's an application that they have to complete, an interview, and that informational covers all of that information, which is why it is required to attend. And so just be on the lookout if your student is interested in joining SLG. Tell them to follow them on Instagram. It's at UMKC Gammas, or follow them on Rue Groups, and they will post all of their recruitment information on both of those platforms. And that's where they can find the events that they want to attend. Next, we're going to move to Interfraternity Council recruitment. This is our fraternity recruitment process, and they also do a formal recruitment. And this, the chapters that participate in that are Lambda Chi Alpha, Kappa Sigma, and Sigma Alpha Epsilon. And their process is a little bit of a longer process, or at least it seems as such, but they will start recruitment events on August 29th and conclude formal recruitment on September 11th. August 29th through September 1st is really IFC Council sponsored events. So just as there's a Collegiate Panhellenic Council, there's an Interfraternity Council, and they are, as the council, hosting events to really get students interested in joining a fraternity and getting to know kind of the organizations and who they might be interested in attending next week's events. And so they'll be doing that Monday through Thursday, and your student is highly encouraged to attend, but these are not necessarily required, but it's a great way to get to know the men in the community and kind of make some next decisions. September 6th to the 10th are when those 3 chapters are going to be holding chapter-specific recruitment events. So these are highly encouraged to attend, and they are able to choose which chapters they would like to attend. I always say I think it's best to attend at least one event for all 3, so that you can kind of make a decision about who most aligns with their values, who they maybe fit in with best. But I always encourage them to attend at least one event for each organization to be able to make a fully educated decision. And those will the events will always be staggered. So your student has the opportunity to attend all 3 in one day if they would like to. So one event will be maybe from 5 to 6, the next from 6:30 to 7:30, and the next from 8 to 9. So there's an opportunity to attend all 3 chapters events Monday through Friday. Saturday is an invite only. So if your student is invited to a chapter's event, that is great. It means that they're likely being considered for a bid, and which is an invitation to membership. And then September 11th was when those bids or when those membership extensions happen. And that will be the conclusion of that process. And there is no registration fee to participate in fraternity recruitment, but they do need to register to participate so that we can check their grades and make sure that they meet the 2.7 requirement to join a fraternity. And that registration can be found in UMKC IFC's Instagram bio, which their Instagram is at UMKC_IFC. It can also be found on the Fraternity and Sorority website, which is on, you just can look up Office of Student Involvement and it will lead you to the Greek Life website. And again, students are encouraged to attend as many events as possible and explore their options to find the chapter that most suits them. All right, and then lastly, we're going to move to NPHC, or the National Panhellenic Council, also commonly referred to as the Divine Nine. And the chapters that we currently have on campus are Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated, and Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. So these are all options for your student. And their council does things differently, but that's totally great. Membership intake processes vary per chapter and take place at various times throughout the year. So not every chapter does things the same way. And they may, some organizations may do intake in the fall, some may do intake in the spring. It really just depends on what the needs of the chapter are during that year. And same thing as the processes vary, those requirements for membership also vary per organization and per their national policies. But when your student is considering joining an NPHC organization, what they really need to do is look for an informational. These informationals, as I mentioned, similar to SLG, they really explain the criteria for membership, what is required for a GPA, what's required for credit hours, how much does it cost, all of that information is covered, the application process is covered. So those informationals are required to be considered for membership in an NPHC organization. And informationals are announced either through flyers on campus, social media, or just through some general publicity, either through our TV screens. It kind of varies depending on what the organization prefers to do. Some like to post on social media, some prefer the flyer route. And then a great thing that I would encourage your students to do if they're interested in joining one of our NPHC chapters is to attend NPHC 101. That's going to take place this year on August 29th at 6 p.m., where they can learn more about our NPHC community and also ask questions about how to go about the intake process. Because for students who maybe are first gen, they may not know exactly how to go about showing interest. I'm going to give some tips for showing interest. That is the first thing to do when interested in an NPHC organization, is show interest and let them know that you're interested in joining, but there's a specific way and a discrete way that you need to do that in order to be considered. And so the top 5 things that I encourage students to do to show interest is to first do research about the group which they're interested in. I always encourage students to go on YouTube. There's many members who have YouTube channels that openly talk about the process and how to show interest, and those are the individuals that I highly recommend you take that advice from. And then next would be the national organization's website. Many national organizations post the requirements for membership on the website, so you can go directly to the website and see, oh, I need to have X amount of credit hours. I need to have this GPA. I need to have this number of community service hours, et cetera, et cetera. So many organizations do post those requirements on the national organization website. And so I encourage most students to do that. Next would be just attending the chapter's programs and events. If you're showing up to the chapter's events, they likely know that you're interested in joining. So just putting that effort to participate in those programs, be attentive. That's one thing. You always want to be attentive when you're attending events, and then get to know the members and build relationships with them. And then show your involvement on campus. As I mentioned, many of the organizations require leadership experience and community service hours. So making sure that you're getting involved on campus, being in other clubs, and gaining that experience is really important. And then again, attending that chapter's informational meeting is required. So making sure that you're keeping an eye out for those flyers or those social media advertisements about the informational. And that is it for NPHC. Did you have was there a question?
I have a question. It's related, I believe, to CPC recruitment. So we can answer it now, or if you want to wait, it's totally up to you. So,
yeah, we can.
Okay.
I have one more slide, so we can wrap that up, and then I'm happy to do open Q&A.
Yay. So Lisa will get to you just momentarily. So thank you.
Awesome. And I just wanted to wrap up by saying that your role in your students' college experience is tremendously appreciated. And we would love your support in encouraging your student to go through recruitment or joining a Greek organization, because there's also a role for you as well in this process. And I always encourage parents or supporters to really also take the time to learn about Greek life at UMKC and our chapters. And so for everyone that's watching, I really appreciate it, and definitely hope to see you at some events in the future, at family weekend, and all of that great stuff. But your support means everything to us. Another thing that I would encourage parents and supporters to do is to discuss finances. That's a big piece of joining a fraternity or sorority. That's kind of what makes us a little bit different, is we are dues paying organizations. We have, as members, dues to pay to the national organization, but we also pay dues to support the local chapter. And so talking about what that looks like for your family, or the family structure that you have, about whether, the student needs to have a job, which is totally awesome. And many of our Greek students do have jobs to pay for their experience, but also membership expectations. What does the time commitment look like? Are you able to handle this? And kind of talk through that with them. Help them think of questions to ask the organizations, especially if they're going through IFC or Panelinic Recruitment or even SLG recruitment. We have some sample questions on our website that you can send to your student, but just helping them think of questions to ask the organizations to really help ensure that they're finding an organization that is best for them. And then support their decision. Allow them to choose the organization that most aligns with their values and their goals. You may have one idea of what you want your student to join. They have a completely different idea, but support that decision and then celebrate with them. As I mentioned, your involvement doesn't end once they join. There's many opportunities for you to come out to events and meet their brothers and sisters, connect with fellow parent and family members. Many of our organizations host dads weekends, moms weekends, family weekends, those kinds of things. And they also invite families and supporters to attend philanthropy events because that allows them to show you all that they're kind of having a greater impact on the world and our country. So those are great opportunities for you all. And again, we really appreciate your support and you all being here with us today. And so I'm happy to answer whatever questions you all have. Feel free to throw those in the chat.
Thank you again, Lynn. One of our questions is, typically how many girls enter the recruitment process? And to follow up, how many will receive a bid?
So last year I'll say this, our goal for this year is to have 120 women sign up for recruitment. Typically we start the process with around 100. So our goal this year is to increase that number 120. And it's hard to say how many individuals will receive a bid just because there's a lot of factors that go into that. Last year we welcomed over 80 individuals into our community. And so we really try to ensure that everyone receives a bid. That it's very uncommon, but it does happen that some individuals don't receive a bid, but we want to ensure that, we try our best to make sure that everyone that's going through the process is able to find a home within our sorority community.
Awesome. I was just typing that answer into the Facebook live stream as well, so that it's there again for folks to reference back, or please, I think what's really cool about this opportunity is that it's recorded for students to watch with some of you all, or parents and families to see like the night before recruitments. How are ways that students can take care of themselves during that type of recruitment process? There are some longer days, or maybe you mentioned a little bit of stress, or just, again, that finding that sense of belonging, that identity. There's a lot of emotions. Like, what do we recommend for self-care, and how can family members help?
Yeah, again, relying on that recruitment counselor and being open of, I'm very stressed and I need to take maybe a breather, like that is totally fine. And I was talking to our Panelinic president, we're wanting to have maybe a little silent room with some coloring books for individuals who might be overwhelmed to de-stress during that process. It's a very loud process, so quiet time is always needed during recruitment. And so, just checking in on your students, saying, how are you doing? How are you liking the process? Just following up with them and making sure they're doing okay, but also encourage them to let their real gamma, if they're not doing okay, that's okay. They just need to let someone know, and we'll be sure to take care of them. We can give them a break during their schedule. We can do whatever we need to do to make sure that they're staying calm and stress-free as much as possible.
Lynn, what typically happens? So say one of my students got a bid. Yay. What are kind of those initial next steps? Like, can they have a minute to breathe? Are they locked for life? Like, talk to us about those kind of initial next steps in joining that sorority or fraternity chapter.
Yeah, so it's definitely, they're not locked in right in that moment. Once you are initiated, then you are technically locked in, which you can, even once you're initiated, you could still choose to resign your membership, but then you're not able to go and join another sorority. If your student does go and attend bid day and they choose that is not the chapter for them, they just need to contact their new member educator and say, I just don't think this is for me, but that does result in them not being able to join another sorority for 1 calendar year. And so there is a little bit of an impact on that, and that is not a policy of ours. That is a policy of Nphc, which is the National Panhellenic Conference, who is the national body for the 26 Nphc sororities. But if they end up not having a great experience those first couple weeks, they're able to resign their membership, or de-pledge is what I should say, de-pledge and no longer be a new member of that organization. But we would hope that with the process and how it works and it being values-based, that they are able to find the best organization for them and be happy with where they end up.
Oh, and sorry, maybe secondary piece of that. What is like pledging? So what does that mean in that new member education? Or hopefully, I didn't mean to go like the negative route on that, but the positive, like, woohoo, yay, like,
yes,
I'm a member, fill in the blank. Like, what are those next steps? Again, so just parents and families can say, like, are you ready? Like, this is awesome. Like, so proud of you. And here's what the next steps might look like.
Yes, so it does vary per council, but across all organizations, they'll go through a membership education period. At least for Panhellenic, that's typically no more than 6 weeks. For some of our fraternities, they're even required to initiate within a certain amount of hours. So that kind of depends, but they'll all go through a membership education process where they're able to learn more about our community and learn more about their national organization, the history of their organization, and what it means to be a member of that specific organization. For Panelinic, and I know some of our fraternities, they're able to get a big brother or a big sister who's kind of a guide or a mentor for them. And that's was always one of my favorite events too, is big little reveal and getting to find out who your big sister is. But that's an exciting thing to look forward to. And then of course, going through the initiation process and kind of learning more about the history of the organization and how the organization came about. These are all really exciting and impactful things that help you have a deeper connection to your organization and kind of learn about the roots of your fraternity or sorority. But the new member education period is a really exciting time. And typically the time commitment for that, they'll attend one chapter meeting a week and they'll attend one new member meeting a week. Some of them do that back to back. So it's just, you have 2 hours a week that you have to commit to this. And then there'll be some fun activities throughout, like sisterhoods and getting to go on little dates with, at least for Panhellenic, going on dates with different sisters to kind of find a good big sister match.
Awesome. What is like your number one favorite part of being the staff advisor for all this? Like what keeps you coming back year after year?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say for me, one of my best experiences of joining my sorority was just the number of leadership opportunities that I was given. As I mentioned, I was a first generation college student, so I didn't have a lot of knowledge or a lot of experience that kind of helped me feel prepared for my career. And so I just love seeing students be able to grow as leaders, be able to take on positions and really also make change in their chapter. There's been lots of changes happening in Greek life over, nationally and within our community over the past several years. And so just seeing that change coming about, but also seeing our students be able to really grow as individuals and grow as leaders is always just something that makes me really happy, because I can look back and see how it changed me and how it impacted me.
It's really beautiful. I totally can. I'm not Greek, but like watching the students and seeing them just shine, and those moments when they realize they found a home, when they realize they found a values-based community, is so special. And so
Yeah, it's
it's
very
really,
empowering.
yeah, those are always my favorites moments. And, I work with and for families, I work a lot with Sigma Lambda Gamma, and it's always just so much fun to see the chapters really unite around values and what is important for the community. It's not just like a one-person show. It's a chapter united around philanthropy, brotherhood, sisterhood, family, all of that. So with that, anybody else have any questions? I'm looking at the chat. I'm looking at who we've got in our webinar. If not, Lynn, any parting words?
I just want to say again, thank you so much for your support. And I would hope that you would go and encourage your student to register for recruitment or think about joining one of our organizations. But if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. My email is fsa@umkc.edu, or you can give me a call at our office, which is 816-235-1407. And I'm happy to talk with you. I love getting to connect with parents and help them be able to guide their student through this process, because I know it can be overwhelming and there's just a lot of factors into it, especially if you're not a member. I was not a Legacy. My parents were not members of Greek organizations. So I know that it can be a little bit of a daunting process, but please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. But again, thank you all so much for being here, and I appreciate your support.
There we go. Be good if I unmuted myself. Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much, Lynn, for being here during a busy time period. Next week, Lynn is what's called Work Week, working with some of the sorority women that she was referring to, and just prepping and getting everybody excited and really, again, embracing the tradition of what recruitment looks like and making it the best experience possible for our potential new members. This concludes the last of our summer series. We'll be advertising some of our family talks coming up for career services, student disability services, and financial wellness center. Stay tuned. If you ever want or have a request for a specific office, shoot me an email, families@umkc.edu. And with that, I am going to stop our recording.